Hello everyone, today we'll be discussing DiagrammeR and showing you how to use this package. So what exactly is DiagrammeR? DiagrammeR is a package within HTML widgets. Widgets can be utilized for a variety of uses, including creating dashboards, tabular displays, as well as graph visualization. DiagrammeR specifically is a built-in package that is used to generate graphs using text in a markdown-like syntax. Within DiagrammeR, there are different functions that can be utilized to produce different types of graphs. The two most common integral functions are GraphViz and Mermaid, which is not pictured here. Specifically, we'll be focusing on GraphViz. GraphViz is a function that produces high-quality and detailed graphs. In order to activate the GraphViz function, a graph specification needs to be passed into the GraphViz function in dot language. The dot graph specification can be delivered into GraphViz function either in a string, as pictured here, a reference to a GraphViz file, or as a text connection. An advantage of the dot language is that it is highly customizable and it allows you to control line colors, arrow shapes, node shapes, and many other layout features.
One of the most essential attributes when defining a graph is a field called layout. Layout determines the orientation of where each node is placed in relation to the others. There are four layouts to choose from: dot, Nido, 2π, and Circo. So first let's talk about dot. The dot layout shows each node on the graph in rows or columns based on rank. This rank is determined by distance from a node that is determined to be the parent node. And that's based on its relation to the other nodes. So here's one example in which this is the default way that the dot layout works. And so what it does is it takes the parent node and says this one's on top, and we're going to orient so that each following rank is a new row. The rankdir variable in graph can be changed to determine which direction rank goes in. So if we make it LR, we see that it starts from the left side and each descending rank moves further right. Now let's move on to Nido. What Nido does is it essentially tries to efficiently display the data. So this is good when you want to visualize the data but don't have too much information on anything about it. So here's an example of what Nido does with that same data we were just displaying in dot. Moving on, we have 2π. 2π places all the nodes of a rank in a concentric circle. And it has a nice symmetry to it. So this is good for creating nice aesthetically pleasing diagrams. Finally, we have Circo, in which each rank has a circle as its for all of its subnodes. So we can see that here we have a circle that is the green nodes that are ranked 2, and then each one of those has a smaller circle surrounding them. This is good for visualizing things such as telecommunications networks. Let's take a look at just how we structure one of these function calls. So the first thing you have to do no matter what is make sure you're importing your library here. So the library DiagrammeR, just like any other R package we're looking at. So then we call the grviz function for GraphViz, and then we tell it that it's using the dot language. We specify the layout of the graph by calling graph and then square brackets, and then any attributes we want to set. So here we've just set the layout to dot. Down here we've added another field called rankdir, and so you can just add as many as you want. All of the possible options here are specified in the documentation for the code. Additionally, we have node, which is attributes specific to each node. So we've said circle, so that's the shape. Style is filled, color is gray, no label. You can also specify attributes to specific nodes. So this is only for node A here, which overrides the color being gray. And then B, C, and D follow a similar pattern. So all of this is encompassed in one string. And down here we see the relations between each node specified using arrows to tell which direction the relation is in, as well as grouping to tell that all of these nodes should have an arrow pointing to them coming from this node.
With a really simple example. The first thing we do is pass the graph specification DiagrammeR into the GraphViz function, and then we add node statements. So the first nodes are the letters A, B, and C, and they are currently in the shape of a circle. So we are defining the ID of each node separately and calling the grviz function repeatedly. We could, if we wanted, change the shape of the nodes to squares. I can't spell, to squares. And that, if we run that, it would look like this. But we'll keep it at a circle. So then we can add more nodes, and because we specified the shape of these nodes to be boxes, these following numbers will be, or the nodes will be boxes. So if we run that, it would look like this. But you'll notice that these nodes aren't connected, and in order to connect the nodes, you'll have to create edge statements, and that's what these are. So if you run that, you would get this, and what's cool is that you can also add labels, and so if you add a label, then it will look like this. Example is going to be a little more complicated, as you can tell by the lines and lines of code, but it's not too complicated. So our example is going to be on the deadliest mass shootings in the US, since the hot topic right now. We'll start with the nodes, which can be customized in a number of different ways, as you can tell. So the shape is currently set to rectangle, but it could be a rhombus or a square or a diamond. You can change the font size and the font name. And then there's a layout, which is currently set to Circo, but as you learned earlier, it could be 2pi or Nito or dot, but Circo just looked the best for this example. Then going on to the individual nodes, you can change the fill color or the label. The label isn't supposed to be here twice, but and then if we were to run this, okay, let's take a look at this. So as you can see, the first node in yellow is labeled shootings and then branches out to the 3 deadliest mass shootings in the US, which are colored orange. So Las Vegas in October 2017, Pulse nightclub in June 2016, and Virginia Tech in April 2007. These, the nodes that branch out of these 3 orange subnodes represent the death toll of each shooting. So 58 people were killed in Las Vegas, and that's colored red. 49 people were killed in Pulse nightclub, those are colored pink. And finally, 32 people were killed in Virginia Tech, those are colored brown. So this is what our diagram of the 3 deadliest mass shootings in the US look like.